David Edward and Robert Delwood discuss Robert's book, The Secret Life of Word.
Robert, how are you?
Hello, Dave. Doing pretty well.
That's great. Hey,
Thanks,
Robert.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm a big fan of your books, and you've taught me a lot about Word. In fact, I struggle a little bit. I help. One of the things I do is I help companies where they have like big libraries of stuff, and then they want to update it because they wrote it in 2008 and all that. And I will get in there and fiddle around with VBA. But books like yours have helped me because it's kind of a maze at best, trying to figure out, what the best way to do something is, and even just understanding that Word even has that kind of capability, I think.
Right. And it surprises a lot of people too. So the one of the things that motivated me to write this is I think Word is a wonderful tool. It's been around since '95, I believe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I believe people use no more than 10 features within Word. If anyone can name an 11th that they use, I'm impressed. And in an era that we have to do more these days with less resources, fewer people, fewer time, deadlines, there is a lot of power within Word that is just being overlooked. And this falls into the umbrella of automation. But there's nine levels of automation in Word. And what I wanted to do was present these 9 levels of automation to people so they know they're there. It runs on complexity from, I consider hitting the F4 button automation. You hit F4 and you repeat the last command. Automation, you don't have to type.
I just learned something. I didn't even know that.
So it runs from using a simple key to there's VBA, Visual Basic for automation, which is their programming language. So you have all these levels in between, but I've never seen all of this in one place.
Yeah,
that's what motivated me to write the book, to get the word out. I'm a big believer in that. So I'm a technical writer. I've been a technical writer for almost my entire career, and I've been a titled programmer. So that puts me in 2 worlds. And I'm a firm believer that every writing group should have their own dedicated programmer to automate their processes.
That's interesting.
Now they're not going to get their programmer writer. So the next best thing is to learn automation themselves. And again, it runs the gamut from hitting F4 to fields and containers and programming.
So what was going on in your life? And by the way, and then one of the things I usually ask, which I'll ask, I'm just curious because you came up with a pretty good title. How did you come up with the title, A Secret Life of Word, The Secret Life of Word?
I do like that title.
Yeah, that's good.
Because there's a lot of things in it that just people don't know about Word. And if you don't know about it, it's not obvious. So you wouldn't just accidentally discover it. No one accidentally discovers VBA and programming. There's hints along the way, but it's just not advertised enough. And I think the writers need every advantage they can get. So there are hidden aspects to Word, unfortunately.
I love the title, The Secret Life of Word. I mean, it almost sounds like a better thriller than some of the junk I write. So I'm sure it's pretty engaging. So what was going on? So at some point, you're working, you learn how to use this thing. You're a programmer. And at some point in your life, you weren't writing a book, and then you woke up that morning and you said, "Yep, today's the day. Today's the day. I'm starting the process." Well, what was that day like?
Not even. So I was at a meeting. I was at a writers meeting, STC, the Society of Technical Communicators, and I was at their monthly meeting, and there was a speaker there whose topic was writing books. Now, book writing, at least a few years ago, always had a mystique and a mystery about it, and it's often seen as something that's out of scope for the average person. They don't think they have anything to write about. They don't think people would listen. When in fact, everyone has a story. They have their own perspective. So he was up there and he was describing the book, and he put it in very plain terms, there's no magical process about it. His gist was you sit down and write a book. Now, specifically, so that started me thinking. But specifically, he said how to write the book. So he said, whatever you do, don't just do it 10 minutes a day or half an hour a day. You'll never get done that way. So when you're ready to write a book, you come up with the outline and the features you want. Then every evening after dinner, you lock yourself into a room and you do this for 6 months, and just to knock the book out. That's the only way that it's going to get done. And that was the key for me, because yes, I write, but like you said, I wrote half an hour a day. And a good friend of mine once said he has all these ideas for great projects, but each one takes more than 24 hours.
Right.
And nothing ever gets done. So that was the key for me. Once you decide that you can write a book, you just have to sit down and block out. It sounds drastic, but you block out your life for 6 months.
Yeah.
But it gets it done. It keeps you focused, and finishing the book is of course the key thing. So I've had people come up to me, for instance, when they found out I wrote a book, and they go, oh, I've written books too. Well, it's not finished. I'm sort of started. I haven't decided the plot, and they keep backtracking until they realize that they just thought it would be cool to write a book, and the idea stopped there. And I'm not condemning that.
No,
I don't want to sound patronizing in any way.
No,
but finishing the task is in and of itself the task.
I find I have the same experience, and I find wonderful, brilliant people who have written a book or are writing a book, and they tend to be my biggest critics because their book, when it comes out, is just going to be so amazing and great, and compared to all the other stuff that's out there. It is absolutely a process, and I want to get back to your process in a second, but finishing the book is harder than anyone could imagine until they've done it, right?
That is yes, and that was the surprising aspect of it. You don't get paid for writing books; you get paid for finishing books.
That's right. So I want to go back. I want to go back to your outline process. Okay. Did that just snap together because you knew it so well, and you just followed it, or did you have to keep going back to it, or was even that a challenge? What was the outlining process like?
So I knew Word pretty well, but even so, I still had to sit down early on and map out. I never enumerated the levels of automation before, and I didn't want to rush the process. So I took about two weeks. This is before I start writing. I took about 2 weeks to try and enumerate these otherwise ethereal steps, and I came up with 9 concrete, writable, actionable ideas, and from there I was set. It didn't take me very much research to write the book, because I already knew it. I had to do research on details. How does this automation step start, and what if it breaks? But those are just details along the way. So it's sort of like software testing.
Yeah. So when you were locked in the room for an hour every night from 6 to 7, did you have a goal? Other than just being in there for an hour, did you know, look, I got to write 500 words, or I got to hit 2 pages, or anything like that?
It was more topical. I wanted to cover a concept or an idea in proper detail. So if that turned out to be a paragraph, I was head for the evening, but that wasn't much the case.
Right.
So I wanted to go over. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to spend a week on chapter X, I said I'm going to develop each concept properly, and then that evening I only those evenings I focused only on that concept until I was sure it was well covered.
Interesting.
So I'm sorry. So I didn't really have a schedule for the book. I had a good idea about how long each topic would take. So,
Right.
so I had a vague idea, but I wasn't legally committed to any deadline.
Interesting. Yeah. So, okay. So you had an outline and then a time commitment, and then you just kind of worked it out in that
Right.
construct. Now, at some point, you thought the book was finished because you submitted it to a publisher. What was that process like? And was the book really finished, or did they give you a lot of notes? Or just walk us through the moment, you hit the end, you now know Word, from that moment to the book actually being released.
So can I back up a minute here and talk about publishers for a second?
Sure.
So it's key that you know what you're going to do with a book ahead of time. There's a lot of emphasis now on self-publishing, and that's fine. That's going to take a little more discipline on your part, and it's a skill that a lot of people aren't used to. So you're learning that. I went with more traditional route of going with a publisher. The problem is my book was such a niche market that I had trouble finding a publisher. I shopped probably the big 10 in the tech writing, and I was all turned down specifically because it was such. I wasn't writing about how to work with Microsoft Windows as a journal. You get 800-page tome out of that. I was working in how to repeat text in one document effectively. So I was lucky enough to find a startup publisher, XML Press, and he had figured out these niche markets, and he was going. So I think I was his third book.
Okay.
The third title he had. And so going back now to your question, he was very helpful in the process. He guided me through the mechanics and the business of getting published. He didn't really he was also my editor, but he didn't provide an overwhelming amount of direction. He didn't ask me to rewrite entire chapters. He asked me to refocus in one or two places. Refocus who the user was in this chapter I was writing to, kind of thing, just to tighten up. But he wasn't very intrusive in that regard. But keep in mind that he was doing it for the idea of selling book. So I thought his suggestions to be very good. He was a pleasure to work with. Yeah. In fact, that guy at the SDC meeting that once, one of his points also was, when you're done writing the book, on your welcome page, first thing you do is give thanks to your editor. Your editor and
that's what's known as how to get a second book.
Yes. So yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating. So how long between the time you submitted it and it came out, and was there anything when it came out that surprised you about its reception?
So after I submitted it, the final submission was about, I guess, 4 or 5 months.
Okay, wow.
Between the time it was published, and I did meet up with at the national STC conference where he not only brought books, but he also had T-shirts made with a book cover on it, which I thought was cool. And seeing the book, so I've been tech writing for a long time, and I've been published because my stuff is in Microsoft Windows. I can say I've been published, 3 billion times, and I've been amazing articles. The thing is, I still love seeing my stuff published.
Yeah.
I hope that kick never goes wide. Right. So in seeing the book in hardcover pages, hardcover, the feel to it was a definite high.
Look, I'm with you. The same for me. I've written like 40 books, and every single one I get it, and You know what? I think until you've experienced it, you can't, like you said, it's a high, it's the only word. It's not really the right word. It's the best description of words. I agree with you. It's just, there's something to it. Yeah. And you're right. Hopefully it never goes away.
Yes, and at that conference, I got to do a book signing, which is something I always want to do. Sit behind the table, say who is this for, and write it, and the whole thing. The other thing is I just enjoy being an author. I can always say, you know, I'm on Amazon. Go look at me, and I've progressed. So I can walk up to someone now and say I not only had an idea for a book, I wrote it, so I could complete that sentence.
Okay. Well, look, do you have any advice? I mean, let's say that someone is out there sitting and they might not have, they might have the same skill set you have, which was fairly deep when it comes to the actual production process of writing. But, you know, I mean, is there any advice you'd want to give to someone sitting out there who thinks maybe they have a book like yours in them?
So I would offer two or three things. One, if you have an idea, it's probably viable, and try it. Everyone has. So you need two things for writing. You need a perspective and perspective and sort of an angle on things. So think of yourself as orbiting a planet in a satellite. So your perspective is where you are in orbit around that topic, but your angle is which way you're facing in the topic. So you can be staring right into the heart of the planet, or you can be dissecting the atmosphere. Both of those are valid. So the point to that astronomical example is that if you have an idea, it's probably workable. So don't minimize yourself, and don't think that everyone will be bored with it. If it's your perspective, then talk about your perspective, because no one else has that except for you. Two, it is work. Start to finish. There's there might be a perceived glamour in writing a book, and there's really not. It's you sitting in front of a keyboard, writing, rewriting, restructuring. Some days you have epiphanies; those are good days. Some days you have writer's block, but you still have to make progress. So don't be fooled that it is not an easy process. It can be a difficult one, but there's a payoff at the end. If you enjoy writing, then you get to do your interest for 6 months, and that's the only way anyone ever succeeds at any goal. Long distance runner gets tired at the end, but it's worth it.
I think that's right. Yeah, it's the most introverted process where you're pretending, where you're writing is an extrovert. It's really a bizarre process. So I think that's good. I think I believe in yourself and do the work is kind of what you said. Just to summarize, so I think that's exactly right. Well, Robert, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, sure.
Is the book doing good out there?
No one ever gets rich on technical writing books,
right?
So.
Right.
But I didn't do it to get rich. I did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah, and you're helping people.
It does make writing a second book easier, and I don't know what my future in that is right now, but I certainly have options.
Right. Excellent. Well, congratulations on getting it done. It looks like it's doing pretty well to me, and I think the topic is very interesting. I think there's lots of people, if they would pick up a book like this, they would understand that typewriter program they have on their computer can do a whole lot more than they're having it do right now. Yeah. All right, Robert. Well, thank you very much, sir, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button.